It's my honor now, speaking of, to introduce the wonderful Kristen Pierce-Vreeke, who is the new, oh yeah, already I love it, the new Executive Director of the Austin Child Guidance Center, to the stage. Talk about out of the frying pan into the fire. What a wonderful job you've done. She'll say a few words for you today.
Good evening, everybody. I just really want to thank you all for coming out to support Austin Child Guidance Center in our efforts to improve the lives of children and families in Central Texas. As Trevor mentioned, my name is Kristen Pierce-Vreeke, and I have the tremendous honor of serving as the 8th Executive Director of ACGC. So I know the goal tonight is to have fun and to enjoy this fantastic band. But first, I'm going to ask you to please sit back in your seat, put both feet on the floor, and take a deep breath. And then I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a minute. And I'd like you to take a few seconds to recall the first time that you really had your heart broken. The first time someone really significant to you hurt or betrayed you. Maybe someone you thought was a friend bullied you. Maybe a parent let you down in a fundamental way. Maybe someone you really loved walked out of your life and never came back. So open your eyes when you have that memory. Many of us can not only recall that memory, but we can also conjure up exactly how we felt in that moment when the shock of that pain and disappointment took our breath away. Most of us heal. We pick up the pieces, we move forward, only maybe a little more guarded, a little more cynical. Now take that same memory and imagine that it happened when you were 5, or 7, or 12 years old. Now imagine a heartbreak of that magnitude happening to you multiple times before the age of 18, unable to heal from the first heartbreak before the next one hits. Each of these heartbreaks is a trauma, and when they come one after the other, it's called complex trauma. People with complex trauma are much more likely to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, and children are no exception. Many of the children that we serve at ACGC struggle with trauma symptoms and PTSD, and these statistics are even higher among the grant-funded populations that we serve. As such, 9 years ago, we began our journey to become a trauma-informed organization to add an additional layer of support to the children and families that seek our services. People often underestimate the feelings and emotional needs of children, relegating their emotional displays and behaviors to being spoiled or dramatic, or believing that because they're children, they're too young to know how they really feel. But how many of us adults are still struggling to overcome some hurt or trauma that took place in our childhood? And how many more children have to die at the hands of other children or by their own hands because no one recognized or heard their cries for help, or because no affordable resources were available? I recently watched a documentary about Fred Rogers. In it, he talks about the experiences in his life that shaped him, one of which was being bullied as a child. From that experience, he promised himself that he would seek out what was essential in every person he met so as not to judge them based on their outsides as the bullies had done to him. The concept of seeking out what is essential in people came from a quote from The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The quote reads, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." At ACGC, we strive through evidence-based interventions and treatment, and mostly from compassionate hearts, to help children and families identify and strengthen the things that are essential within each of them. And like Mr. Rogers, the ACGC team ascribes to this very deep but very simple ethos. Thank you so much for coming tonight.